Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. And about a week or two ago, I featured what in my opinion is the best starting tech tree for all new players, and even players who didn't consider going up that tech tree in the first place, to go down. And that is towards the Object 430U. Now, I'm not going to go into mass detail about why the tech tree is great, because I've already covered that. All I'm going to talk about today is why the 430U, in my opinion, is the best starting tier 10 tank that you can get. Now, sure, there are some heavies. You could go for the IS-7, you could go for the Object 277. But if you want to pick up a medium tank, and at least for not a complete new player, but somebody who wants to have something that they'll grow into, the 430U is just absolutely ridiculously powerful. So the first thing that's great about this tank has to be its armor. It has 160mm of frontal hull armor, which pretty means that you don't have to angle it against lower tier opponents. And even if when you start to master angling the armor of this vehicle, which hopefully you will have by the time you get to tier 10, you can start to be able to bounce pretty much everything, even equal tier opponents firing premium rounds at you, as long as they don't hit your lower plate. The turret on this thing is a god. I think it's probably got the best turret on any tier 10 medium tank, and it compares to tier 10 heavies. So when you manage to get this thing in a hold down position, when you make aggressive plays like I have done here to take this southwest corner of the map, you can be truly dominant. And then when you've got there with 440 alpha damage and a fairly decent rate of fire of 5.88 rounds a minute, which doesn't give this thing the lowest damage per minute, even though its damage per minute is definitely not 10 out of 10, then you can, once you've got there, you can sit there, you can take no damage apart from against the artillery on the enemy team, and you can proceed to just pick apart your opponent shell by shell by shell. So that, in essence, is why the 430U is great. But there's a lot of other reasons. The main weakness of this tank is meant to be that its accuracy is awful. At 0.4, there's no doubt that it has the worst accuracy of any tier 10 medium tank. Although, accuracy in World of Tanks just doesn't seem to really matter, because most of the shells go towards the target, and if you need to, you can just load gold rounds and fire it at big flat surfaces, or even sometimes not flat surfaces, and still go through. Alright, so I've got two contenders here trying to dig me out of my hole in the corner. An M103, a tier 9 American heavy tank, and also a tier 10 German tank destroyer with 1050 alpha. Alright, so the M103 managed to penetrate me with the first shot. The enemy artillery is firing into the fray because he doesn't have to worry about damaging people in World of Tanks these days, so he's just going to fire at me and keep me permanently stunned. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fire heat rounds here. That was actually a misplay. I should have tried to fire it at the turret cheeks there instead of firing at the hull armor. And what I'm doing is I'm killing this M103, and I'm positioning myself so that I can keep myself safe from the Jagdpanzer 100. And what's this M103 going to do now? Yeah, he's going to ricochet off me. So I'm actually going to track this Jagdpanzer 100. Because I'm firing heat, that doesn't actually manage to go through. And now I'm just going to get behind him. I mean, how demoralizing must that be for an M103 when the tier 10 medium tank basically just says, yeah, you know what, I'll leave you for later and I'll avoid the most important thing. And then this is what's great about the Object 430U. Yeah, the fact that I can just drive out in front of a tier 10 tank destroyer, and even if he'd hit me, he probably wouldn't have gone through my turret. So now I'm going to change from firing heat rounds to AP rounds, and of course, armor-piercing rounds will go through the space protection that the tracks provide and enter the hull behind. So it's all about tactically using your ammunition here. Gold rounds probably wouldn't be entering the tank after they go through the tracks. Now what you see me doing is just bumping his tracks a little bit, and that's a very important moment as well. If you bump somebody's tracks in World of Tanks, it actually damages them, even those tiny little micro movements or the micro collisions. And that kept the tracks off the Jagdpanzer for just enough to be able to deliver the final blow to the tier 10 German tank destroyer. And just like that, having the armor of a heavy tank with the mobility and camo rating of a medium tank, which allowed me to aggressively get into this position, unspotted for the most part, and then had to have the alpha damage, the clout, and then the armor to deal with it once you're there. There's no better tier 10 tank. There really isn't for random queues. Now, when you start to get into the competitive mode of World of Tanks, which I guess is either the clan wars, or at least for a solo player, it's going to be ranked battles, then everybody starts slinging heat, and yeah, your armor starts to fall a little bit, and people aren't playing big derpy tanks like the Jagdpanzer 100, which a vehicle like this does incredibly against. People are starting to play aggressive vehicles like the Chieftain. People are starting to play tanks which can even bounce your heat rounds off the upper hull like the Object 279E. And in those kind of matchups, yeah, the Object 430U will fall back a little bit, but really, the whole point of this video is to say that this is my most recommended tier 10 tank for a new player to pick up, And I also would argue that it's probably the best tier 10 vehicle for just absolutely stomping the majority of situations inside the random queue. Now, of course, you're going to get some scenarios where you want to have more than 5 degrees of gun depression. Maybe you've spawned on, I don't even know, the map that's got what feels like the Scottish music, you know, which is the ridgeline. Is it called Westfield? I think it's called Westfield. And you've spawned on there, you're in a heavy tank, you can go and peer over the ridgeline. It was in my video from yesterday of my top 10 tanks with the T29. I believe it's called Westfield, the one with the bridges that everybody likes to jump off. And if you've got yourself a tier 10 heavy tank there, or any kind of heavy tank with 10 degrees of gun depression, you can do things that this tank could only dream of. But it's about learning the different positions on the map, and even being a little bit inventive and showing you some of the different locations you can use, like this aggressive rush into the K1 area, where you can make those 5 degrees of gun depression work. And when you start to master those positions, and when you start to be able to handle yourself under pressure, and you make sure that you angle your tank towards the vehicle, and you start to learn the reloads of your opponents, the 430U is just absolutely monstrous. It is way better than every other tier 10 Soviet medium tank, in my opinion. And that's coming from someone who loves the Object 140 with all of my heart and soul. I played the Object 140 in the first and second beta seasons of Ranked almost exclusively, and I had a great time with it. But I have to admit, I tried to play it again in one of the seasons of Ranked, and I only managed to hit silver, I believe. I guess I could have, if I tried really, really hard, I probably could have definitely still hit gold with it. But you know, for just casual play where you're not tryharding the whole time, playing that vehicle definitely left me at a disadvantage. While the Object 140 has better DPM, it has better aim time, accuracy, and 1 extra degree of gun depression, it just doesn't have the armor of the 430U, and also doesn't have the alpha damage of the 430U. And the alpha damage of this vehicle definitely makes it way more friendly in the hands of a new player, as well as giving it some rather meaty high explosive rounds, of which you can see that I take 7 530 alpha damage with 68mm of penetration. That means that when you play this thing in Ranked and everybody's just sitting there hull down, you can slowly whittle down the hit points of your opponents for maybe 50 or 100 each time, and when you've got 7 rounds, nobody really wants to take that kind of 300 to 700 to possibly even 1,000 damage from just continuous HE spam, and people who don't take the HE rounds won't be able to do anything for the most part against the fantastic upper hull and turret armor of this tank. Alright, so now I've talked about the 430U and why I think it's incredible, let's focus on finishing this game. So could kill the Jagdpanzer, or could kill the medium tank that's probably going to get it up on the hill and kill my tier 10 heavy tank. Why would I kill the Jagdpanzer? The Jagdpanzer's out in the open. That was the last chance that I had to shoot at the Leopard. And so I managed to finish off the Leopard and then keep the Jagdpanzer for a second tasty snack. Good result there, and that's definitely changed what was a very close game, or even a game that was in the enemy team's favour, to now being in our favour. And with the FV4005 shutting down the E75 on the enemy team, now it's starting to look like we've really got an advantage. But again, this is an absolute roller coaster of a game, because the 50B shuts down the 705A who was on the hill, who must have been pushing over aggressively against him. Alright, so my plan is, I could go against the artillery, but if I go against the artillery, it's just a bit awkward. I feel like there's always a chance the Batchat could just come out and put a shell into me, and as we can see, I've only got 300 hit points left. Also, if I drive up there, to all intents and purposes, the 50B has maybe made his way back down this kind of area here, and will be able to get me in the side. And so what I want to do is I want to ask for help from the 4005, and I want to approach together. And hopefully we can pincer the 50B and we can shut him down. But oh my lord, the 50B puts 1 round into the 4005. He's now a 1-shot for the AMX 50B. This is very tense stuff here, but the 4005 lands a big old derp, doesn't even have to hit the tank with only 25 hit points left to be able to finish him off. And I've got a heat round loaded here that I wanted for the upper hull, or even just for some of the turret of the 50B, completely unnecessary against the FV3805, and he's going to try and hide himself behind the building. Hopefully we hit him, but no! And because I'm firing high explosive rounds here, I can't actually shoot through the wall. I have to loop over the wall. Hopefully this second shell is going to do the business, and there you go, shutting down the British self-propelled gun on the enemy team, picking up 6,000 damage and 4 kills in quite a fast game of World of Tanks. It was the aggression that really made the difference here, and it's the kind of aggression that only the 430U can make. And I want to highlight as well, there was a very important moment when I was retreating at the G1 area, which I didn't highlight. You know when I tentatively tried to get away from the Leopard prototype's vision. If I'd been playing some of the Chinese heavy tanks or the Soviet heavy tanks, they wouldn't have had the camouflage to be able to escape that scenario. But the 430U has heavy tank armor, heavy tank alpha damage, but also medium tank camouflage. This vehicle can get pretty much 20 to 30% concealment when moving, I believe. And that means that you can escape from those scenarios and do things that heavy tanks could only dream of. Now, I communicate with the 405 to say, hey, let's not stay too close together, otherwise the artillery could kill us in a single shot. But it's not going to make a difference as my artillery cannibalizes the enemy pig on the enemy team, and we take down a cracking carry in World of Tanks. So an ace tanker here, and this game was actually from the same tech tree showcase that you saw last week with all of the Soviet medium tanks that I played. So we hit it all during that tech tree showcase. 6,000 damage, 1,299 pace, but oh my word, the FV4005 on our team stole that high caliber medal away from us and did 7,651 damage. So a big shout out to you, Philo Zoof, for a great round here. Couldn't have done it without you. You held the base while I pushed the front. Match made in heaven. So that was the Object 430U. In my opinion, the best starting tier 10 tank. And look, while I'm not suggesting that there aren't other options, there are some great ones like the Object 277 or even the IS-7. It's just an opinion. So let me know in the comments what you think would be the best starting tier 10 tank for a new player. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released, it's time for another World of Tanks tech tree showcase on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And this week, the majority of you have voted for, it's actually a tie, Centurion Action 10 or WZ1321. I'm going to choose British medium tanks, because British medium tanks are awesome, and I'm British as well. Plus, I get to play the Comet, which is still my favorite tank in World of Tanks. So come along right now as I start at tier 1 and work my way up towards tier 10. So you can see if the British medium tanks are worth playing, even in 2019. And if you already have the vehicles, well, maybe I can show you a trick or two in them anyway. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.